life is all about change. And it's all about dragging us through that change, mostly kicking and screaming. Today, let's talk about how you move through change easily and effortlessly and on purpose. Welcome to Phoenix Rising, a superior podcast for all of your transformative tools for personal and spiritual growth. Let's go get that nugget. Hey guys, it's Jen Mack, Lady of the Mind. Welcome to today's episode where I'm hoping I am finding you going with the flow into change, creating the new identity of yourself, reaching higher levels, reaching a limitless type of a life, which I believe is possible. And if I'm not finding you going easily with the flow, then it is my intention that in today's episode, I give you just one nugget of inspiration towards your transformation. All of my episodes, over 500 episodes and counting, I hope that I am giving you a nugget of inspiration towards your transformation, because really life is about change. That's kind of the foundation that we stand on. And I believe that it is our spiritual nature that we are here to live our life to the fullest. And you've heard lots of different, I'm not sure what they're like, perspectives, I guess, where it says, hey, if you had 3 days left to live, what would you spend your time doing? And trying to give us that boost and that fire in our belly that says, hey, I want to live my life, where so many of us, a huge percentage of us, are really living in survival mode. We're dealing with different health, emotional health, mental health issues. We're dealing with all kinds of, outward stuff, external things around us right now, especially with our political environment and just the world in general, all the stuff, and if you go back in time, some of it was not as big as it is today. It feels scary. But then if you were to go back in time and ask someone else who's your age and go back where, they would probably say the same thing, that the political climate was crazy and the world was crazy and money was crazy and stuff. So, but here's what we do. We have to make the most of it. We have to, at the end of our days, we have to look back at our life and say, I lived my best life. I did the best that I could do. And I had a great time. And I had some heartbreak, but I had some amazing things happen. And my goal in life is not only for myself to live my best life, but is to help you live your best life. So I have a story to tell. I live in a neighborhood, and I literally have just shy of an acre property lot. And I have a huge backyard that's fenced in all the way around. 2 privacy fences on the east and west side, and my north side faces a neighbor behind me, and then both sides to the left and right also have neighbors. And kitty corner, like diagonal next to the house on the north, which doesn't matter. It's just she's diagonal for me, was an older married couple with 2 dachshunds. And pretty much at, 5:59 a.m., those dachshunds would go outside and do their morning business and bark their ever-loving faces off. At least one of them. One of them was long-haired, one was short-haired. I talked to the lady only one time when she was calling the long-haired one, which is named Gracie, and was screaming Gracie's name, trying to find her. And so I kind of peeked over the privacy fence, and I was like, hey, do you lose your dog? Obviously. And can I help? And yeah, she got out, and I don't know where she is, and I don't know where she went. And little Houdini gets out of the yard all the time. So it was that was mostly the conversation that we had. It wasn't a big friendly, I don't even know what their names are, other than the one dog's name is Gracie. Anyway, so this has been ongoing for years. And the dog that they had before that, Jake, who was an Australian cattle dog, he also barked his face off starting right about 5:59. So over the course of time, it has been somewhat annoying having lots of dogs on both sides and of actually all the way around. So the 4 houses around me behind my backyard, they all have dogs. And they have always been just kind of bark their faces off. And I do have a little dog who also barks her face off. And if you have neighbors and you know this and you have a dog, typically they will run up and along the fence and barking at each other. And that proved to be quite detrimental to Zoe, who is our 15-pound Chihuahua Rat Terrier mix, and our bigger dog, who's 55 pounds, Juju, who's a boxer mix, though she doesn't look anything like a boxer. They would run back and forth along the fence. Well, several years ago, Zoe was 2 years old, and they're running back and forth along the fence, and Zoe stopped and Juju didn't. And I was in the house. I had let them outside. I had come in the house to get something, and I heard the noise. I heard my neighbor screaming my name. And so I had run out in the backyard, and Zoe could hardly walk. And it ended up, she had blown a disc in her back and required back surgery. So I have been very heightened about all the dogs in the neighborhood. And so there's privacy fences pretty much all over the place, other than my north yard, north part of the yard that faces that neighbor. So when dogs are out and they're barking, my ears are huge. I just am tuned right into it. And anyway, this neighbor, is every single day. So now here comes the winter, and typically, dogs aren't left outside all the time. And now it's spring, and I'm hearing no barking, at all. And typically I hear not only little Gracie barking, but I hear the lady owner yelling at Gracie, and it's not usually nice. She's pretty loud and sounds kind of angry. And so it's loud. My neighbors are loud, and I'm loud. So I guess we all fit together. Anyway, so now at this point, I don't hear that. I don't hear that sound. I don't hear the barking. I don't hear the lady yelling. It's goes through April, and it just dawns on me. It's May, and I'm early June, and I'm well, that's super weird. I haven't heard those dogs anywhere. So I'm up on my deck, and I have a walkout basement. So this is where I'm at right now, and it goes out in my backyard. But anyway, I'm up on my deck, and I look out, and I don't see the dogs ever. Typically I would see them out walking around or chasing each other or barking or whatever. I would see the husband and wife wandering around. I don't see anybody. So I'm oh, now my mind starts reeling. What happened? Did she pass away? Did the dogs pass away? Did they get rid of the dogs? Is she, or did they sell the house? I have zero idea. And it's just kind of this weird, my brain starts kind of filling in these gaps. Well, then I'm oh, huh. Oh, that's sad. It went right to that. I feel sad, that the dogs are gone, even though they annoyed me. Now I love dogs. I love animals. Obviously I have 2 dogs. I've had dogs, a long time. I have lots of animals. I have 4 turtles. I have 2 snails. I have a fish. I have 2 dogs. I've had cats, whatever. And so I love animals. And I'm just oh, where did everybody go? Oh, I hope nothing happened to her. I hope that her dogs are okay. It went to this thing. It's oh, I didn't, and it went on for a month or more. And we would go walk, on the road back. And I'm just what happened, And all of a sudden one morning, 6:01 a.m., I hear Gracie barking her face off, and I hear her mom yelling her face off. And I'm oh, they're back. And it was this weird, happiness. I'm oh, they must have been on vacation or so. Literally, they must have been literally gone. Maybe they go to Florida, and they just got back. Anyway, so it's just this interesting thing. Now I have a reason for telling you that story, as we're talking about designing our life on purpose and moving out of our comfort zone. And I thought it was really interesting that my brain went right to this negative, did they die? Did she die? Did she die? And then the dad got rid of the 2 dogs. Did one of the dogs, did they both die? It was just this big sad story. But then one day when I heard Gracie, and I heard the mom out there yelling her face off, that I'm they're back. And it was kind of exciting. And then it was oh, boo, because now back to 5:59 in the morning, and, everyone's yelling in the backyard. But the point of that is I was comfortable with it. It was this knowing at 5:59 every single morning, pretty much every single morning, other than the deep winter, I would hear Gracie barking, and then I would hear the mom yelling. And that's the comfort zone. And you have, if you're still listening, if my dog story didn't bore you to death, you have and are living in several comfort zones. I have had several friends and clients, family members, where they stay at jobs that are miserable. They have intestinal issues when the alarm goes off. For the first hour, they're getting ready to go to work and go to a job they hate, to work for a boss they hate, to hang around with coworkers that they hate, for a pay that they hate. And, but they won't quit, and they won't move on to something else because they're afraid, because moving out of the comfort zone is terrifying. And it's always interesting to me, if I look at my history, I have had 37 jobs. I'm 53 years old. I've had 37 jobs, and I'm a holy moly entrepreneur through and through. Now, I am a very good, dependable, loyal, trustworthy employee. But the problem in me and jobs is typically the ceiling of pay, but also as soon as the managers, the boss, whoever would start treating me like I was a number or like I'm just a robot machine and my needs don't matter, I was out. I was done. I would try, and I'm like a relationship person. So I would like build really good relationships with coworkers and my boss, my managers, and they always liked me. I'm as dependable, hardworking, several jobs. I could tell you that I was not there very long and I was promoted to manager within a very, very short period of time. Like I'm talking like a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and most of the time I would turn it down because that just meant I'm just going to be miserable twice as much for $1 more an hour. And, so it was really interesting that I would always move when things were uncomfortable. I had uncomfortable relationships prior to the love of my life now for almost 15 years. And I would move. And the move didn't always mean pack my bags and move. What it meant was I would start moving, like figuring out what the problem is and trying to problem solve and starting to have conversations. And I would start reading different books and I would start learning something different because I'm uncomfortable and I want to be comfortable, but something is happening in my life that is making me uncomfortable. So the job is making me uncomfortable. So I would try to figure it out or work with it. And then if it wasn't working, what I was doing wasn't working, and I really couldn't make myself feel like this job was the best job for me, I'm like, I'm out. And the same with the relationship. And I will not say, and I have not had 37 relationships. I've had a handful of very important stepping stone relationships that have led me to the person I am today, to have the relationship that I am today. And we've talked about that in the last couple of episodes, that is all about identity work, that it is all about moving into the version of yourself that is and has the things that you want and is becoming the person you want to be. So let's go to, this can be literally any category. So health, wealth, and relationships. So your health, if you're overweight, if you're not healthy, then it's like, are you the person how do you become the person who is healthy? If you're overweight, you have to become the person who is thin and fit and strong or flexible or whatever your descriptor words are for someone who's healthy. If you want to make more money, you have to become a person who has more money, who can hold on to their money. So, and what was the other one? Health, relationships. You want a loving, healthy relationship, you have to become a person who has that. And this is the only time, and I tell Cameron this, who's our youngest son, who's 17 years old. And I tell him this all the time, where he's a power lifter and completely changed his life in like a year, where he was like a video gamer, just like a lot of teenagers right now, using their phones, video games, Xbox, whatever, a lot of sitting around, a lot of Pop-Tarts. He'd go to his dad's and literally 72 hours of video games. And he one day goes, he just kind of like, I want to say it like this, like he jumped off the couch and he's like, okay, I want to go to a different school. He was going to a very small high school. He goes, I want to go to this other school, which is huge. It's like, 1,500 students and 1,500 high school students, 9th through or 10th. I think it's 10th. No, it's 9th through 12th grade. And I want to join cross country. And we're like, huh? Like, are you kidding me? And was a sprinter in high school, but I've run a couple of 5Ks and I've done some triathlons, but I'm not I wouldn't consider myself a runner. Certainly not cross country, and which really is just a 5K. But he's like, yeah, and I want to run. And so then one of his classes he took was lifting, was weights and conditioning early in the morning. It's called 0 hour. So he did it before school actually started. And we're just like, what is happening? Like, okay, and I was a personal trainer for a long time and in the fitness field for like 20 some years. I don't know how many, 22 years or something. So I was like, that's super cool. Like, let's do it, man. And his before and after is like, it's like pudgy, pudgy kid to G.I. Joe. Like, I'm not kidding. The kid is ripped and he's big. He's tall. He's like 6'3". He's like 200 pounds. And he's just like six pack and like strong shoulders, trunks for legs, like really into powerlifting. And it's just this amazing transformation. But you go back in time, and you talk to him, he was like, I was miserable with who I was. Right there. Listen. Not miserable with how I looked, not miserable with what was happening. I was miserable with who I was. That was an identity. And so now somewhere in his mind, he was like, I want to become someone else. So this transformation that we go through is the most important thing that we could like latch onto in the transformational world. Wherever you are in your life, one of those three areas, health, wealth, or money, health, wealth, or relationships, one of those three areas is probably an area you would like to see improved. And I have a series of questions in my coaching programs, and my coaching program is actually shifting and changing right now, so it's a little unfair for me to tease you with questions. But really, the first one is like, who do you want to become? Describe that person. If you want to lose weight, if you want to get healthy, if you want to run a marathon, if you want to have a happy, healthy relationship, if you want to make $1 million, who is that person? Like, describe the person who has that as a version of you. And I don't know if this is you. I don't know if this is happening. Maybe you're absolutely happy in all three areas, but I know that life doesn't stop. It doesn't stand still. It doesn't stop for anybody. Change is inevitable and change is a constant. So now it's like, we always heard, you go with the flow. Figure out, you just, change is constant and you just have to learn how to deal with it. And I'm like, really what that is learning how to become the next version of yourself. And becoming the next version of yourself is all about becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that's hard. But here's an understanding. There are two parts of you. There's the subconscious mind, which is your behaviors, your beliefs, the stories you tell. It's all your emotional states. It's your, it's your identity, really. And it's your whole life, that big part of you that runs on autopilot. Then there's the conscious version of you that's a smaller version of you that is like, hey, you know what? I want to make more money. Hey, I want a better relationship. I want to have more fun. I want to feel better in my body. And it's that spark right there, that awareness that says, I want something different. It's in that awareness that we need to spend a little bit more time. And when I wanted to change and increase my business, there was a couple of things that I needed to do. And one of those was getting really clear on my desire. Now, I will say this, as soon as what I probably heard you say out of your mouth is, yeah, but Jen, I don't know what I want. And I go, great, look at your life right now and say, look at the things that you don't want that are currently in your life. Like, I make a certain amount of money and I say, I don't want to make this money anymore. And I go, great, how much do you want to make? How about you double your income? Add a 0 to your income. Because listen, you guys, that's possible. And I love the possibility of that so much. That is what has led me to be first in the personal development field and then even deeper into the spiritual development field and working with energy and emotions and our stories and our beliefs that we tell ourselves. If you're now going to say, yeah, that's not, I'm never going to make any more money than I make right now. That is your subconscious mind keeping you in the comfort zone. The comfort zone keeps you alive. It keeps you safe. But it also keeps you stagnant. If you ever walked on a trail and you come to just like this stagnant pool of water that is green and gross and just like maybe there's some frogs hanging out there, but there's some bugs and there's literally no movement. There's no flow. That water is what our life is like. It's just sludge, right? And what I want for myself is I want flow. Flow feels good. There's movement. There's progress. And it feels amazing. Now for you, my friend, what area of your life is stagnant? Maybe they all are. Maybe only one of them is. How do we get it moving? This is how we get it moving. You take that area of your life and you go, what is my desire? And if you don't know, but you do know what you don't want, I don't want to be on my feet all day. I don't want to be overweight. I don't want to be unhappy. I'm sick of fighting with my spouse. I'm sick of being tired every time I get up. I'm sick of not having enough money to cover my bills, right? Now I go, if you didn't have that, what would you have? If you weren't sick and tired, if you weren't fighting all the time, if you had enough money for your bills if you didn't have enough money for your bills, what would you have? If that wasn't true, if that story wasn't true for you, what would be true? I'd have plenty. Money would come in from many sources. I would have a relationship with my best friend. There would be a ton of laughter and intimacy and friendship and quality time. I would feel amazing and energized in my body. Like, that gets us going, right? That creates this desire. Here's what happens. When you create the desire, and you can work with what you have, you can work with the discomfort. But when you step outside of that in your mind and you go, what is it that I do want? Is that desire fuels you. It fuels you forward. It pulls you forward. And as it pulls you forward, you don't care about the discomfort. As you have a desire that gets you going, it pulls you forward instead of you pushing your life. There's a difference. So back to Cameron. In, June, July, he's like, okay, I want to go to a different school, to this other school, and I'm going to run cross country. And I'm like, dude, like, you're coming from off the couch, man. Like, you're now going to run like 6 days a week. And they're going to have you running like 3, 5, 7 miles. And you're like used to sitting on the couch. And he's like, but the desire was so great. The desire was so great. Dude, the kid got up at like 5:30 in the morning to go to school. And he ran. He ran every single time. He didn't stop. He didn't complain. He had to work out some kinks. He got shin splints. He had some ankle issues. But guess what? The desire was so great. It outweighed all of those complaints. Okay? Now, as a power lifter, he doesn't work out at school anymore. He now works out at a different gym. He pays his membership. He's a power lifter. Dude, he gets up at 4:30 in the morning. 4:30 in the morning. Every morning he eats protein. He does meal prep. He eats right. He drinks plenty of water. He's working out like a boss. And then he goes to school. And then sometimes he goes to work. His desire for that change was so great, it outweighed any discomfort. Here's a quote. I want you to write this down if you're taking any notes. Quote this. A dog on the hunt isn't concerned with fleas. A dog on the hunt isn't concerned with fleas. Now, what in the flippin' crap does that mean? What that means is that when a dog is on the hunt, after his desire, chasing a rabbit, chasing a squirrel, chasing a bird, he doesn't care about the discomfort of having fleas. He's on the hunt. Cameron was on the hunt for this new identity. He didn't care about the discomfort of getting up early in the morning. He didn't care because his desire was so great. That's how we start moving out of discomfort. If you have a job that literally makes you sick in the morning, as soon as a client walks into my space and I go, okay, what do you want to work on? And they go, I hate my job. And then they start describing that they are like diarrhea in the morning, nervous stomach, can hardly eat. They're just angry and irritated and anxious and overwhelmed. And they just absolutely hate their job, but they can't quit, right? They just, I just can't quit. I go, okay, great. You don't have to quit. But listen, I go, why are you working there? Like it's slowly killing you. Why are you still doing it? And then they would say something like, I just don't know. I can't quit. They say that. But I'm like, I'm not suggesting that you quit, but I am suggesting that you do something different. And as we would start discussing, what is it about your job you hate? Like you can talk about that, pull that stuff out. I hate the people. I hate the pay. I hate my boss. Okay. What is it about those things that you hate? And then we'd start talking about it. And then I would break those. Of course, I'm taking notes like a mad dog. And so then I would break all that down and say, okay, so you have a boss who is belittling, who's hypocritical and sexist. Okay. Then I would go, how, if your boss wasn't those things, what would he be? Or what would she be? She'd be understanding. She'd be friendly. She'd be authoritative, but kind. I'm like, great. There's your desire. Now that gives us something to work for. So here's what I did. I created, because I work with energy of our thoughts, of our beliefs, and I actively and purposefully and intentionally work towards creating a new identity. So right now I'm like revamping my business. And in this revamping, I have to become a new version of myself because I'm wanting my business to go from here, which is like I have my hands kind of a lower state, to here. And I have my hands above my head. So I need to keep going. I'm 53 years old. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an energy coach and an intuitive healer, and I want my business to be a little bit different. I want it to make more money. I want to reach more people. I want to expand. I'm going to be doing that my whole entire life, and I'm guessing you're going to be doing it too, meaning you're going to be faced with change all the time. All the time. We can't not. So we have to get comfortable with it. And I go, you don't have to get comfortable with it, because it is uncomfortable, but here's what I suggest, is you create your life on purpose, and you create the version of yourself on purpose with purpose, and you create that desire that pulls you forward. So it's designing your life, but it's designing you. Because once it designs you, your life just follows. Because when you step into a version of you that is thin and fit, your life just flows because you're telling a new story, right? If you are telling a story about money just flows to you from all these different income streams, and money is easy, you're saying that's part of your story and those are your beliefs, your life adjusts to those stories and beliefs. We just now need to create what they are. So here's what I ended up doing. I created a paragraph, a pretty good sized paragraph. I think I've talked about it a couple of times because we keep talking about identity work, and it's like one of my favorite things to talk about. And I created basically it's a big affirmation. And it is a version of myself. It is my desires wrapped into one, and it is my identity and an outcome of what I was looking for, what I'm looking for. And I write this paragraph 3 times a day, every single day. And I sit in the image of that paragraph. So I sit in the image of what am I creating? What am I looking like? What's my behavior? What's my outcome? How do I feel? And here's the 3 things that you use to create this affirmation. And this is one of the bigger things that I do in my women's retreats is we do a crap ton of identity work. We do future self-guided meditations. We do a lot of removing and evaluating our limiting beliefs and our stories. And we start telling new stories. And I give a ton of tools and structure around here's how you tell a new story. But we also remove, and get rid of the emotional states around the story. Like we remove the limiting belief, we remove the trigger. So then the best part is that once you leave, you already feel like you're a different person. You already feel like you're that person. Then it's just a matter of time. Somewhere in Cameron's life, in the beginning of school, he already felt like he was thin and fit and like muscular and getting up early. And he was already stepping into that identity, which is why it made his transformation so incredibly easy. Now, was the work and the action? I'm sure there were days that were really hard to get up at 4:30 in the morning when everybody else was sleeping. But he did it. Never once did he come to us and be like, oh, I'm so tired, I'm not going today or whatever. He still just got up and went. He got up and went every single time. And now the transformation is incredible for him. But the desire was so great again. So it got him out of bed because his desire was so great. And that's what I think is good for you. So here's the affirmation, is including these 3 pieces: the outcome that you want, the identity you're stepping into, and the emotional state of your desire. So for example, the outcome, you want this certain kind of a relationship. The identity is, who are you becoming that has that kind of a relationship? And then at the end, what is the emotional state that you're after? Thank you so much for listening. If this episode resonated with you, please take a moment to follow the show, leave a review, or share it with someone who might need to hear this too. It truly helps this work reach more people. If you'd like to go deeper or support the podcast, you can find everything linked in the show notes, including a way to support the show, or explore my upcoming events, circles, and free resources. I'm really grateful you're here. I hope this episode met you exactly where you are and gave you just one nugget of inspiration towards your transformation. Now the work is the awareness at the beginning that says, who do I want to become? What do I want to have? Who am I stepping into? What is the next version of myself? And it really is looking at what you have and then looking forward and going, what is it that I want? That is the bigger question. And creating such a desire that pulls you forward, that just lights you on fire every time you talk about it. If it does not carry that kind of weight, does not light you up to talk about it, we just didn't go deep enough. So again, it's what I do at my women's retreats. We go deep. We go deep into the desire until you are like lit up and you are like on fire. You're like, oh man, I need to have this. I will get up at 4:00 in the morning. I will work out at the gym. I will do said thing. I will change these versions of myself. But the first thing is changing you. And this is the change. So I don't know if this served you at all. This is one of my favorite things to do and talk about. I'm trying not to belabor it to death, but I am hoping that you got one nugget out of today's episode. And it really is some powerful stuff. I'm telling you, like, if you can step into a new version and you get that emotional shift inside, even if you are, let's say you're overweight, but you're like, I feel thin and fit inside, you've done it. You've done the work. You've done the biggest amount of work. Everything else after that is continuing the momentum of believing that, and the rest of it will adjust. I promise you. I promise you. Because I've been there. I've done that. I'm still doing it. I will do it for the rest of my life. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you do the work, and I hope you create the desire.